I always say good morning because it's morning someplace. Okay, so as a lot of you know that not this past Friday, but the Friday before, I woke up because that's what we do. Once morning time comes, I wake up and I got dressed for work and I just felt tired. And so normally I would have left for work and I decided I was just gonna lay in bed. I was just gonna lay in bed. And I ended up falling back asleep. So I slept for about another 30 minutes before I realized I went back to sleep. I woke up and told Karen, I gotta get to work. So I'm driving. I'm in Slidell and I'm driving to Hattiesburg. And as I was driving, all of a sudden I just, I could see in the sky, I'm like, man, there's a dot in my eye. A big black dot in my eye. And I was like, and I sat down, like, doing all this stuff, seeing if I could get it out of the way, but it's weird. Every time I saw the dot, I went to look at it, and it moved. So I was like, I can't see, I see it, but I can't focus on it to see it, And so I called Karen, I said, Karen, I see these dots in my eyes. I pulled over, I had saline solution. I thought I just had some dirt in my eyes, so I put some saline solution in my eye, and I'm like, Karen, I see these dots. I see these dots. She goes, Gene, I think you need to go see the doctor. And I said, I can't. I got to go to work. I got to go to work, and then we have conference that night. And I said, Bishop needs me to be there for this and that and that and this. I said, so I can't. And so she was like, okay, but I think you need to go see the doctor. I said, okay, I'll think about it. And of course, I didn't do it. So Friday night, I'm at the conference, and Bishop caught it. He saw something because I was trying to read. He gave me some stuff to read for his PowerPoint. And as I was reading it, I couldn't make out some of the words because I had multiple dots at this point. And so like a dot would cover up a section of an E and it would look like an O. You see, and the dots would start filling in certain spots, and it was really difficult I had to keep moving my eye just to make sure I could read the words, but I never told Bishop that. He just thinks I'm ignorant. Now, after that night, I went to bed, we went to bed, I woke up Saturday morning, and on Saturday morning, I told Karen, I said, Karen, I do see these dots. I don't know. I said, I think I talked to Pastor Karen, and he said it could be fatigue. You can see dots when you're tired. I think it was Friday night. I don't remember. One of y'all, but they said it's fatigue. So Saturday morning, Karen goes, well, I think you need to go see the doctor. I said, really? I think I just need to get some sleep. I said, the wisdom of Karen said that, it's fatigue. It's nothing important. It's just, I'm tired. She goes, I see dots all the time. But as the day was going on, I came here, I told Karen, I said, I can't go to the doctors, we have conference. We just got to finish off the conference and let's see what happens. Now, what I didn't tell Karen that day was, as the day was going on, the dots were getting worse. It was like, it was galaxies of dots. I mean, I could look, and even when I closed my eye, my left eye, because if I see white walls, I see dots. If I look down at black, I don't see the dots. So, it got to the point where even if I close my eyes, even right now, I can see the dots. So I didn't tell Karen when we got home that night. I just, I said, she goes, oh, the dots through there? I said, yeah, the dots through there. She goes, I think you need to go to the doctors. I said, well, let's see what happens tomorrow morning, Sunday morning. I said, if we go tonight, we're just going to be there all night. And, we got to pay for the emergency room and all that. So Sunday morning wakes up, and then something new is happening. I'm laying there, and I'm starting to see flashes of light, like lightning in the distance. And it was only out the side. And it was anytime I move my eye. If I move my eye, it's like a light. I'll go looking for it. And then I'm like, so then I told Karen, I said, Karen, okay, I see flashes of light, and there's a smear now in my eye. There were no more dots. There's dots, but now there's a smear in my eye. And she goes, and she was mad at that point, and she looked me in the face, she goes, baby, you're going to the doctors. I was like, but I got stuff at the church to do. No, we're going to fight about this if we have to. And, her idea of fighting is just sweet talking a little louder. And so I told her, we ended up making a deal. She says, look, if you go to the church and load the projector and get all the things going, then we'll go straight to the doctor's, right? I said, yes, we'll do that. She wouldn't even let me pull in the back. I pulled up at the front door, and we got out, and she was like a secret agent, made sure no one got around me to talk, and she kept everyone distracted from me, and I'm doing my job. And once I was done, she goes, let's go. So got in the car, and we started to head to King's Daughters. And go to the next slide. I got some slides here. Okay, now there, what you see, I look comfortable, but I'm being tortured. Because what the doctor does, the doctor puts on this light on his head. And then he keeps my eyes open, and he takes a magnifying glass, and he holds it right there in front of my eye. And the reason why he does that is so he can magnify my eye. But the problem is it magnifies the light. And so my eye is all of a sudden just filled with this light. And he's saying, look up. And I can't even tell if I'm looking up because you're totally disoriented. It gets to a point where I started getting nauseous. But I didn't want him to know that because he was trying to find something and he couldn't figure it out. And I said, man, if you have to push harder, push harder. And then he started pushing a little harder because I wanted him to find what was going on. So he's going through all of this stuff, and then once he was finished with that, he went and got, I think, another doctor or another nurse, and she said, this is where it got goofy. He goes, it looks like it's a retina detachment. And I was like, a rectum detachment? I said, how does that even happen? I'm like, this is King's Daughter. I'm getting out of here. But he says, and then he had to explain it to me. It's a retina detachment. And here's how he explains it. He says, when you're born, I said, look, when you're born with this gel in your eye. And as you grow older, the gel starts to break down. And usually when you're up in age, and he gave me a number, but I don't want to say that here because you might, that's me! When you're up in age, eventually the gel liquefies. And when it liquefies, it pulls on the retina, okay? And when it pulls on the retina, it tears, it lifts the retina up. And so the spots that he said that I'm seeing, it's the gel that's breaking down in my eye. And so, but the gel is liquefying and it's pulling up on the retina. And so the retina is coming up. And he said, that's why you're starting to see the flashes of light, because a lot of the gel has already liquefied and detached from the retina. And the brain is sending electrons, energy to the eye, and the flashes of light is my brain talking to my eye. Okay, so with all that said, he said it's a mechanical problem, it's nothing you did. So guys, don't say this is my sin coming back to haunt me. This is just a mechanical problem, all right? Go to the next slide. Now here is a healthy eye. And if you see the retina on the bottom, right, it's smooth and it's flat. And that's how your eye's supposed to look. But what they did this ultrasound on my eye. They put this patch on my eye and they put the ultrasound thing, and they moving it around. And as they're moving it around, he's telling me to look to my right, look to my left, and all this stuff. And Karen saw it also. As I looked to my right, on the screen, he said, look straight. When I looked straight, you could see, just like a little baby in the body moving, you could see the retina coming up and then setting down again. And the doctor even said, you saw that? And she goes, yeah, I saw that. So this is the results. Now look at the retina, right? This is the results of King's Daughter's ultrasound. Go ahead. You see that? My eye is on the right? You see that little hill on the bottom with the light on top? That's the retina, and it's detaching. So the doctor looked at me, he goes, it's good that you came in early, And I looked at Karen and said, you see, I told you I had to get here. And so what he did, he said, we're going to have to send you to university. And so they sent me to university. You can go to the next slide. Okay? And here, once we got to university, for one, it was a quiet drive. I tried to be humorous because that's who I am. If you see me on Facebook, there's a picture, I'm going to university, I got eyeballs falling out of my head, right? But I was nervous. I was getting nervous because I'm thinking, this could be something serious because Karen's reading up on it. She goes, Gene, you could lose your sight. Thank you. So we get there and they dilate my eyes. Now my pupils are just opening up wide, right? They said everything's going to start getting blurry. A lot of light's going to start coming in. And so the doctor comes in and he puts that headlight on his head. And then this time when he puts the magnifying glass in front of my eye won't shut. The pupil won't dilate. So it won't shut. The light is like piercing in now. And so at this point, I have a towel in my hand, and I won't say anything because I don't want them to go easy on me. And I'm just wringing the towel out, and I'm breaking into a sweat. Karen said she could see my toes curling in my shoes, and so they do that ultrasound. He's killing me, and then the next slide. That's the result of the ultrasound at university. The same exact thing. Not the rectum, what is it? Retina. The retina is detaching. It's lifting up. And so the eye doctor comes in and she says, do you know your prescription for your glasses? I said, no, I don't. I said, here, you want to look at them? So she looked at him. An eye doctor looked at him and she bust out laughing. She bust out laughing because I am so blind. She thought it was funny. And I was like, you're an eye doctor. And she looked at me and she goes, it's good that you came in early. I looked at Karen and said, that's right, I came in early. Then she started to explain what's going on. She says, what happens is, because you're so nearsighted, I've been nearsighted for as long as I can remember. She said, your eyeball is big. And because your eyeball is big, your retina has been stretched across to cover your eyeball. And so over time, she goes, it's like a tall woman putting on a small woman's pantyhose. I'm like, what makes you think I wear pantyhose? And so she explains it. She goes, if a tall woman puts on pantyhose or a short woman, eventually they rip. I'm like, I understand that now. No, I don't. So she said you need laser surgery. If you want to save your sight, you need laser surgery. And so they said, what is that? They're going to take your retina and they're going to weld it back to your eyeball to keep it in place. And I said, going on from there, we stopped to eat, we're heading home and all. I'm starting to see on Facebook, everyone's praying and just stuff like that. But it's just trying to keep the humor going and trying to understand that this is quite critical at this point. It's getting hard. Go to the next one. I think it's just on plain. Yeah. All right. So we wake up Monday morning. Nothing has changed. My eye, I still see spots. I still have that smudge. I'm still seeing lights out the corner of my eye. And so we start heading back to the hospital to go see a specialist. They said we have to go see a specialist, a retina specialist. Okay? So we go up there and they start doing more testing, more torture with the eye. And then after the interns got to use me as a training dummy because they were trying to teach each other how to do this stuff, the doctor comes in, and I felt relief at that point because the doctor was Asian, and I knew. Like, hey brother, you got my back on this. And so the doctor comes in, and I even look at Karen, like, he's Asian. The doctor comes in, he pretty much says the same thing. They go through the same testing and all, and he looks at all they're not x-rays, ultrasounds and stuff like that. And he explains the whole thing, the gel and the big eyeball, the retina, and the gel liquefies. And he said, it's like this. It's like if I was pulling on my skin and kept pulling and kept pulling and kept pulling, eventually the skin just snaps back in place. And I was like, that I can understand. I can understand that. He said, that's what happened. Because he kept looking at it and said, you don't have a retina detachment. You don't have a retina detachment. I'm like, we have 2 ultrasounds, and we started showing the ultrasounds, and he says, no, you got a big eyeball in the skin. It must have liquefied, and it must have pulled, and it must have just detached and slapped back in place. And we're like, no, that can't be. I mean, how can that be? That, you know, we had this ultrasound. And so Karen's like convincing this guy that he's wrong. You know, we have like 2 doctors and a couple of interns and a nurse all saying that we have a retina detachment going on here. And we got my Asian buddy, and he's saying it's not. So, you know, Karen's like trying to sit there and say, look, this. So he takes the flashlight, he goes back in again. It's burning again. He comes back and he says, no, I don't see it. I just don't see it. And Karen's like, no, look. This is what the doctor said at university. She said this, and she said this, and he goes, well, she was an intern, and she was wearing scrubs? No, she wasn't wearing scrubs. She was wearing a coat. Oh, wait, she was wearing a coat? Yeah, she was wearing a coat. And them two having this conversation, and he goes, well, let me take a look again. And so I'm like, Karen, stop. And he takes his light bulb in there, and this time he takes a Q-tip. And he takes this Q-tip, and he's digging my eye down, and he's saying, look this way, look that way, because he wants to see the retina leap for joy. And he's not seeing it. And so he's like, no, they must be seeing something else. And he pointed something in my eye. He goes, maybe they're seeing this part. And Karen's like, well, they said this, and they said that, and they said this, and they said that. And he goes, well, let me look. He looks into the directory of university, and he looks up the doctor. And he goes, oh, is it this doctor? And they said the name, and Karen says, yes, that's the doctor. He goes, well, that's my boss. My boss. So he goes, I better take another look. I'm like, oh! And there he is again. And this time he was very, very, very extremely thorough on digging, because, you know, he didn't want to have to report back to his boss and say, you were wrong, okay? But he kept looking and looking and looking and looking, and he said, I don't know what to say. The retina is not detached. And so, next slide. That is the retina detached from an eye. That's not mine, okay? But that's what it looks like when the retina is detaching from the eye. And so what he wanted to do, he wanted to prove, he said, this is the retina detaching. Then he showed me a picture of my right eye. Go ahead, next. That's my right eye. Now if you notice, it's all attached. You see the retina is the curvy thing at the top, and it sits on top of that white plane. He goes, that is your right eye, Gene. And you see that your retina is good. Everything is good. But your left eye, go ahead, click. He said, that's the left eye. And look, Gene, it's down. It's not up. And that's his fingers right there. He's like, that's your retina. It is down. And so that's when he started explaining. What I think happened, and this is his best explanation, is that when the gel started to liquefy, it was pulling on the retina. But instead of detaching the retina, it broke away from the retina, and the retina slid in place. And I said, well, what about the dots? He goes, the dots you're going to have to live with, because that's the gel that somehow captured, it must have got captured, because he's like, it must have been captured underneath the retina. And so that's what I'm seeing. So he says, you don't need the surgery, unless you want the surgery. I'm like, no, I mean, if everything's fine, I don't want the surgery. He says, well, you know what? I'll see you back in 2 weeks. Because here's what he said. He said because of my eye condition, he said that I'm prone to having retina detachment, okay? But the thing is, Karen did everything she could to prove to him that he's wrong. And he went digging in my eye 4 times to try to find what she's saying is wrong. I mean, he didn't just get all prideful and say, no, I'm telling you, I'm the expert. He kept going back and back. And when he found out that his boss was the one who said that there was a retina detachment, he went back in and dug even deeper and deeper. And so at this point he goes, look, I'll see you back in 2 weeks if you want, just to make sure. And so we're going back in 2 weeks. Here's how we figured this out. Sunday, once everyone found out, prayer started going on. Pastor said that y'all prayed for me during Sunday morning service, and then y'all pray for me Sunday night service. Monday morning comes. Now, you gotta remember, Sunday I'm in the hospital with retina detachment. Y'all prayed, y'all prayed, y'all prayed. Monday, while we were heading up there, Jill calls, and she goes, hey brother, what exactly you want prayer for? What do you want prayer for? And I said, that the procedure that the doctor has to do, the laser procedure that's going on, pray that it's successful, and there's no problems, there's no complications, that I keep my sight. And Karen goes, oh, you can pray for a complete healing. And Jill goes, that's what we're going to pray for, a complete healing. I was like, okay, that's great. And so then we go to the doctor and we find out that the retina wasn't even detached. It snapped back in place is the best explanation you can figure out. So that is the power of prayer. Now here's the thing. Why am I not so excited? Why am I not leaping for joy? Because I've been convicted over this. Back when Sister Sharon was here, we were praying desperately for a healing in her. We all were praying desperately. And I felt like when we didn't see the results of what we were praying for, I felt like we were broken. God, I believe, and look, my faith was dented at that point on healing. Now I believe God can heal. If I got a headache, I believe God, I'll take these 2 ibuprofens, you're going to make the headache go away. I believe that if you have a procedure done at the hospital, I believe God's going to complete that healing for you. But it was hard for me to believe that God could just take a retina that was detaching and slap it back down for me. For me. Because I was like, and this is what we were pondering after. I'm like, why? Why me? God, we've prayed for Sarah Hunt. We've prayed for your mother and her eyes. And there's so many people here that we pray for passionately. And here I am, right? I get this blessing. And then I was reminded in, I think it's Book of John. Joe will correct me if I'm wrong. Jesus heals the blind man. Now here you have this blind man, he's just sitting on the side. And he's just sitting there doing what he does all the time because he's been blind since birth. And he's holding up and he's begging. And the disciples and Jesus was just in I think it was the sanctuary, and they were just fighting with the Philistines, and they come on out. And why they come on out? Everyone's just chilling out. They just go into town. I was saying, the disciples sit up there and say, hey, Jesus, how about this guy? Why is he blind? Is it because of his parents' sin, or was it because of his sin? And Jesus says, it wasn't his parents or him. He's blind because to give glory to God. Now you got to imagine this blind man sit up here saying, are they talking about me? Are they talking about me? And then he's like, I can't see, but I heard a cell phone. But are they talking about me? And then Jesus comes on down. What does he do? He spits, makes slop, boom, puts it on his eye, says, go wash. And he gets up and he goes wash. The guy wasn't even asking for prayer. He wasn't asking for a healing. He wasn't even seeking it. He accepted that he was blind. He was going to live out the rest of his life. When Jesus came out, he didn't say, Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on me, heal my eyes. He was hoping that Jesus would have gave him some money. He wasn't even seeking for a healing. And he received it. And that touched me at the fact that, because I wasn't even seeking a complete healing. I just wanted to keep my sight. I wanted to keep my sight. And that was hard. That was hard. And, this morning when I was talking to everybody about it, they were like, Gene, you ought to be excited. You could almost see it in my face. It wasn't that I wasn't excited. I was almost remorseful that I didn't have the faith to believe that Jesus could have done what he'd done for me. And it turns out that's my testimony. The blind man didn't ask for the healing, but he received the healing. Okay? I asked for a partial healing, but God loved me just enough to give me the whole healing. And then he gave me the proof in the pictures that I can share. That's why Chris calls it seeing is believing. Okay? Because God does heal.
Yes.
He does heal. He does love us. He does want us to be healthy. And, I told Pastor, I was nervous about giving the testimony because I'm prone to this detachment. I said, if I give this testimony, I feel like I might come under an attack. And Pastor said, you know what, Gene, you're giving a testimony of what God has done. Yeah. So this is my testimony to what God has done in my healing. but I'm believing for a complete healing.
Yes.
Spots be gone.
Yes.
And you know what? Now I wake up every morning, I look. They still there. Praise God. You know, God, praise you. My faith has been lifted by this. And I want you to know that, you know, I know this could probably sting for those that pray for loved ones or pray for those that passed away and that they never received their healing. But you know what? God's love will take care of your needs when you, in a time that you need it. I don't know the answer. I don't know why he did it for me. I don't know. All I know is I'm humbled by it. I know that, you know, that I see things differently again. You know, when Rhonda passed, I seen things differently. And now that the fact that I know that there's a possibility of one day losing sight, you know, everything just starts to look a little bit better, you know. That's why I put on Facebook today, you know, when does partly cloudy become partly sunny? You know, I mean, why do we always have to look for the negative? Why can't we find the positive in the good, you know, the positive in the negative? In the storm, why can't we find the positive in the storm? God is a good God. So I just want you to know that, you know, whatever you're praying for, just continue to do it and believe it, because he just wants, I don't want to say he wants obedience, because, you know, I'm the least obedient among you. I'm taking from Paul. So, I mean, but I just know what God did. I know what God did. And the fact that Karen took all those pictures, and then I got to look at the pictures, it strengthened me even more. Because even I was trying to doubt in my head, well, maybe the other doctors were wrong. Maybe the other doctors were wrong. But you can't question the ultrasound. You know, it's there. And you can't question the other ultrasound after prayer. So we have pictures before prayer, and we have pictures after prayer.
Right.
Okay? So guys, I just wanted to share this testimony. Pastor actually forced me to. But I wanted to share it with you guys because I hope it encourages you. I hope it just gives you, I hope the church can be lifted by this, because I've never seen a miracle. I've never seen a miracle. You know, and even the ones I see on TV, on YouTube, I almost question those. You know, is that photoshopped? You know, but I can't Photoshop my own eye. I can't Photoshop what really happened in my life and what's real to me right now. So I just want to thank you guys for listening to that, and I'm just going to pass it over to Pastor.
Give Gene a hand.